Good afternoon, and welcome to this special newscast where we're covering an in-depth analysis of a controversy that has sparked global conversation about women's rights, religious freedom, and the fundamental human right to worship according to one's own conscience.
The story begins just days ago when Bollywood actress Nushratt Bharuccha visited the sacred Mahakaleshwar Temple in Ujjain, one of the 12 Jyotirlingas revered in Sanatana Hindu Dharma. What should have been a personal spiritual journey became the center of an international debate when religious authorities issued a fatwa calling her participation in the Hindu rituals a grave sin.
Tonight, we examine this controversy through these three critical lenses: women's empowerment, freedom of religion, and universal human rights. We'll also explore the profound teachings of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, whose work for women empowerment in Hindu feminism and religious freedom has been recognized by the United Nations and leaders, Hindu pontiffs across the world.
This is not just about one woman's temple visit. This is about every woman's right to seek the divine in the manner that resonates with her soul. This is about humanity's fundamental freedom to worship, to explore, and to connect with the sacred without fear, coercion, or condemnation.
Let's begin with the facts. On December 30th, 2025, the actress Nushratt Bharuccha visited the Mahakaleshwar Temple in Ujjain for the second time. She participated in the sacred Bhasma Aarti, a powerful ritual performed at dawn where Bhagavan Paramashiva is worshipped with sacred ash.
The Mahakaleshwar Temple stands as one of Hinduism's most sacred sites, housing one of the 12 Jyotirlingas, the manifestation of Bhagavan Paramashiva. The Bhasma Aarti is a unique ritual performed only at this temple, where devotees from across the globe gather to witness and participate in this divine ceremony. Nushratt Bharuccha, like millions of spiritual seekers, came to this sacred space seeking blessings. She participated wholeheartedly, receiving the sacred tika, offering jal, the water, to the deity, and immersing herself in the devotional atmosphere. In her own words, she described the experience as beautiful and deeply meaningful.
Within hours of her visit becoming public, the Maulan Mufti of Shahabuddin, Ravzi Barelvi, National President of the All India Muslim Jamaat, issued a fatwa. He stated that as a Muslim, Bharucha's participation in Hindu rituals, including idol worship, constituted a grave sin, or guna-e-izim, under his interpretation of the Sharia law.
The Maulana clarified that while visiting places of worship across religions isn't objectionable, actively participating in rituals, wearing a tika, offering prayers, and engaging in what he termed as idol worship crossed doctrinal boundaries.
He stated, "I don't have any legal authority to take action. I can only guide and advise that she must do tauba or repent and read kalma to atone for her guna or grave sin."
This statement raises profound questions. Who has the right to dictate an individual's spiritual journey? Where does religious guidance end and spiritual coercion begin? And most importantly, do women have the sovereign right to explore their relationship with the divine?
To understand the gravity of this issue, we must examine it through the lens of universal human rights. Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is unequivocal.
And reading from this Article 18, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it states, "Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom, either alone or in a community, with others and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance."
This isn't just a legal principle, it's a fundamental recognition of human dignity. Every person has the inalienable right to seek, explore, and embrace the spiritual path that speaks to their soul.
What we are witnessing is a collision between institutional religious authority and individual spiritual autonomy. Throughout history, we have seen how controlling women's spiritual choices has been a tool of patriarchal control. When any institution, religious or otherwise, attempts to police a woman's relationship with the divine, it violates not just her religious freedom, but her fundamental human dignity.
The United Nations has consistently recognized that freedom of religion includes the right to adopt, change, or explore different religious practices. This freedom is particularly crucial for women who, throughout history, have faced restrictions on their spiritual autonomy.
KAILASA, the revived ancient enlightened Hindu civilizational nation, has submitted numerous reports to the United Nations highlighting the persecution of Hindus worldwide and emphasizing the critical importance of religious freedom. These reports, accepted and published by United Nations bodies, document systematic violations of religious rights and advocate for the protection of spiritual autonomy.
Now let's explore what makes Sanatana Hindu Dharma unique in its approach to women and the divine feminine. Unlike many religious traditions, Hinduism doesn't just tolerate women's spiritual leadership. It celebrates and worships the divine feminine as supreme creative force of the universe.
In Sanatana Hindu Dharma, the concept of Shakti represents the divine feminine energy, the primordial cosmic force that creates, sustains, and transforms the universe. Without Shakti, even Paramashiva remains inactive. This is not a metaphor. This is theological reality in Hindu consciousness. Women are not secondary participants in Hindu spiritual life. They are revered as embodiments of the divine feminine, as gurus, as temple priests, as spiritual leaders, and as enlightened beings in their own right.
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, has been a powerful voice for Hindu feminism, the revival of the authentic Hindu tradition of Hindu empowerment, feminine empowerment, and spiritual equality.
As per the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's teachings, Hindu feminism is fundamentally different from Western feminism. It doesn't seek to make women equal to men by masculine standards. Instead, it recognizes and celebrates the unique powers, strengths, and capabilities that are inherently female. The powers of creation, intuition, spiritual insight, and transformation.
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam, has established numerous initiatives demonstrating this commitment to women's empowerment. For example, KAILASA's Nithyananda Women's Foundation, operating in more than 108 locations globally since its inception in 2009, this initiative empowers rural women, widows, single mothers, and survivors of domestic violence through economic independence, business training, and spiritual education.
As well as KAILASA's Nithyananda Lakshmi, a microfinancing service based on Hindu economic principles that provides women with access to capital and enabling them into self-employment and entrepreneurship without exploitative conditions.
Then there is KAILASA's Ankita program, providing foundational literacy and community services, banking, and business development specifically for women and girl children.
And KAILASA's Ashraya program, vocational training and pathways to financial independence for women from all backgrounds.
But the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's vision goes beyond economic empowerment. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's teachings of spiritual empowerment recognize that a woman possesses unique spiritual capabilities and powers that have been suppressed by many societies.
The divine feminine is not about making women behave like men. It's about awakening the extraordinary powers that are uniquely feminine. The power of intuition, the power of creation, the power of spiritual transformation. In our tradition, women are not just permitted to seek enlightenment. They are recognized as embodiment of the enlightenment itself.
The controversy surrounding Nushratt Bharuccha's temple visit raises a fundamental question. In a free society, who has the right to dictate another person's spiritual journey?
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, has faced persecution for over 2 decades particularly for his progressive stance on religious freedom, Hindu feminism, and true women's empowerment. The United Nations has published multiple reports documenting this persecution and reaffirming KAILASA's juridical statehood and its mission to protect religious freedom for Hindus worldwide.
According to all the UN reports published by the United Nations, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has been targeted, and this has all been published and recognized by the United Nations. And this is solely due to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's commitment to restoring the worship of primordial Hindu tradition, their most ancient and authentic form of Hindu traditions. As well, it is also due to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's advocacy of Hindu feminism and genuine women's empowerment. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has also dedicated resources, time, and resources to providing sanctuary and leadership opportunities for Hindu women and nuns. And finally, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is actively ensuring that patriarchal interpretations are spreading awareness about patriarchal interpretations that have crept into Hindu practice over centuries of colonization and oppression.
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and his followers, particularly Hindu nuns, demonstrate what happens when religious freedom is threatened, when spiritual leaders who empower women face systematic attacks. It's not just their freedom at stake, it's the freedom of every woman seeking spiritual autonomy.
Freedom of religion is meaningless if it only protects institutional authority. True religion,
Bhagavan, Nithyananda, Paramashivam, is established as a global sanctuary for Hindus facing persecution and discrimination. It offers protection for those who wish to practice Hinduism freely without interference, violence, or denigration.
But more than that, KAILASA stands for a principle that transcends any religion, the right of every human being to connect with the divine in the way that brings them peace, meaning, and spiritual fulfillment.
One of the most beautiful aspects of Sanatana Hindu Dharma is its inherent inclusivity. Hinduism has never claimed to be the only path to the divine. Instead, it recognizes that there are as many paths to the truth as there are seekers.
This is expressed in one of Hinduism's most profound teachings, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuta Vadanti. This is from the Rig Veda, where it is stated paths.
Across the globe, Hindu temples welcome spiritual seekers from all backgrounds. There are no controversial conversion requirements, no loyalty oaths, no demands that visitors renounce their previous beliefs. Hindu temples are spaces of pure spiritual energy, open to anyone who approaches with sincerity and respect. This openness is not weakness, it is strength. It reflects a profound confidence in the power of truth. Truth doesn't need to be protected by walls, threats, or fatwas. Truth reveals itself to those who seek it with an open heart.
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam, teaches that inclusivity is essential to authentic spirituality. In the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's vision, spirituality is not about creating divisions between us and them. It's about recognizing the divine spark in every being and honoring every person's unique journey toward that realization.
As per the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's teachings, when we restrict someone's spiritual exploration, we're not protecting. It's about expanding consciousness, not constricting it.
From KAILASA's perspective, Nushratt Bharuccha's visit to the Mahakaleshwar Temple represents something beautiful. A soul-seeking connection with the divine, experiencing the powerful energy of one of Hinduism's most sacred sites, and opening up herself to spiritual transformation.
That she came from a different religious background makes her journey even more meaningful. It demonstrates the universal human longing for the sacred, for meaning, for connection with something greater than ourselves.
We must address a troubling pattern. Why are progressive spiritual leaders who empower women often targeted for persecution.
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam's experience is instructive. For decades, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has worked tirelessly to revive authentic Hindu traditions, including the celebration of feminine power and the equal spiritual capabilities of women.
Over the last 30 plus years, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has served over 1 billion free organic nutritious meals through Annadan or food donation programs, established the world's largest Hindu university offering free education, created disaster relief programs serving millions during natural calamities, established more than 108 women's foundation centers worldwide, provided self-employment opportunities to thousands of underprivileged individuals, pioneered programs for women in prisons, offering meditation and life skills training, and revived ancient Hindu sciences of yoga, meditation, and spiritual empowerment. And yet, despite these humanitarian contributions, above all of the countless hours of enlightened revelations and initiation that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has gifted to humanity, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has faced systematic persecution, false allegations, and attempts to silence his work and destroy his voice.
The United Nations has published 29 reports submitted by KAILASA documenting this persecution. These reports have been accepted by various UN bodies, including the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Expression, and multiple human rights committees.
But why does this persecution occur? It's precisely because of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's progressive stance on women's empowerment, religious freedom, and the revival of authentic Hindu traditions that challenge patriarchal distortions.
When spiritual leaders empower women to lead, to teach, to pursue enlightenment, and to exercise spiritual authority, they threaten power structures that depend on women's subservience. This is true across religious traditions.
The fatwa issued against Nushratt Bharuccha fits this pattern. It's an attempt to control a woman's spiritual choices, to dictate her relationship with the divine, and to use religious authority as a tool of patriarchal control.
The response to this controversy has been overwhelmingly supportive of Bharucha's right to worship as she chooses. Social media has erupted with messages of solidarity, with millions affirming the principle of religious freedom.
Hindu organizations worldwide have welcomed Bharucha's visit, seeing it as a beautiful expression of the universal appeal of Sanatana Hindu Dharma. Many have pointed out that Hinduism's doors have always been open to the sincere spiritual seekers, regardless of their background.
Progressive voices within the Muslim community have also spoken out, emphasizing that spirituality is a personal journey and that no religious authority should have the power to punish someone for seeking the divine.
Women's rights activists have framed this as a critical feminist issue. They argue that throughout history, controlling women's spirituality has been a primary tool of patriarchal oppression. When women are free to explore spirituality on their own terms, they become empowered in all aspects of life.
So where do we go from here? How do we build a world where spiritual freedom is truly universal, where women are genuinely empowered, and where human rights are respected across all traditions?
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam's teachings and KAILASA's model offer a vision worth considering. KAILASA functions as a sanctuary for persecuted Hindus worldwide, and its principles have universal application.
First, we need to recognize the spiritual autonomy as a fundamental human right. Every person must be free to seek, explore, question, and embrace spiritual truths without fearing punishment, or persecution.
Second, celebrate rather than fear spiritual diversity. When someone from one tradition finds meaning in another, that's not betrayal. It's the expansion of consciousness. It's the recognition that truth is so vast and it cannot be contained by a single system.
Third, empower women as spiritual leaders, teachers, and authorities. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's model for Hindu feminism demonstrates that when women are empowered spiritually, they transform not just their own lives, but the entire communities.
And fourth, it is to question the authority of people who assert power positions to control rather than to liberate. True spiritual leadership empowers people to find their own connection with the divine.
And fifth, build institutions and communities that actively protect religious freedom. KAILASA's work at the United Nations is its establishment as a juridical entity, and its global network of temples and educational institutions demonstrate how spiritual communities can organize to protect freedom.
This isn't just theoretical. KAILASA has established diplomatic relations with multiple nations, received recognition from world leaders, and created practical frameworks for protecting religious rights. It shows that spiritual communities can be effective advocates for human rights.
As we close this report, let's return to where we began. Nushratt Bharuccha's visit to the Mahakaleshwar Temple.
A woman entered a sacred space. She participated in ancient rituals. She opened her heart to the divine energy present in the temple, and she left feeling blessed, inspired, and spiritually nourished.
This should be celebrated, not condemned. This should be honored, not punished.
The controversy that followed reveals deep tensions in our world. Tensions between institutional authority and individual freedom, between patriarchal control and women's empowerment, between fear-based systems and liberation-centered spirituality.
The teachings of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan, Nithyananda, Paramashivam, and the work of KAILASA offer a different vision. A vision where women are recognized as the embodiment of the divine power, where spiritual exploration is celebrated, not feared, where religious traditions compete through their capacity to liberate, not through their power to control, where human rights are understood as inseparable from spiritual rights, where every person is honored as a unique expression of the divine.
This vision is not utopian. It's practical. It's being implemented in thousands of ecosystems worldwide. It's being protected by United Nations advocacy and international recognition. It's being lived by millions of spiritual seekers who refuse to let fear dictate their relationship with the sacred.
To Nushratt Bharuccha, we say to you, your spiritual journey is yours, yours alone. No authority has the right to shame, condemn, or control it. Your visit to Mahakaleshwar Temple was an exercise of your fundamental human rights.
To spiritual seekers everywhere, we say you are free. You have the inalienable right to seek the truth wherever you find it, to worship according to your conscience, and to connect with the divine in a way that brings you peace and meaning.
And to religious authorities, true spiritual leadership empowers. It doesn't control. It liberates. It doesn't restrict. It celebrates human freedom. It doesn't fear it.
And to all of us, the fight for religious freedom is ongoing. The struggle for women's empowerment continues. The work of building a world that honors human dignity remains unfinished.
But with voices like the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's leading the way, with institutions like KAILASA providing sanctuary and advocacy, and with millions of people worldwide refusing to accept spiritual oppression, we move closer to that vision every day.
This has been a special report on faith, freedom, and feminine empowerment. We thank you for joining us. Encourage all of the viewers to watch more of the news upcoming covering feminine empowerment, Hinduism, and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's work in order to revive Kailasa.
And each of you are most welcome, no matter your background or religion, to visit any of the Kailasa ecosystems around the globe. And you can scan the QR code on the screen to learn more how you can become a part of Kailasa. With this, we thank you and good afternoon.